pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Fire downside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks. What's going on this evening? It is the 5th of November over here on the Space Coast, and you should be getting a live view of a Falcon 9 over there on Space Launch Complex 40. It is GPS 3, another attempt at getting this GPS satellite up there for the Space Force. So we will have the NASA Spaceflight crew doing some cameras and commentary for you this evening. I am Das. If you know me, let me know if you can hear and see me right now. Just let me know if you can hear the audio and you can see the video. I'm talking through a sheet. Interesting. I'm talking through a sheet. Anybody else having issues with the audio here this evening? Or what is going on with the audio? Let me know if it sounds correct.
It
A lot of
sounds
people
good to me.
Yeah, a lot of people say. Go ahead.
I went on to the raw YouTube and watched it myself, and it sounds good. Chat says you sound great.
Go ahead.
I went on to the raw YouTube and
I'm listening.
myself, and it sounds good. Chat says it sounds great.
Yeah.
I think you got pranked. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It sounds okay to me. I just listened back to it off the stream as well. So nothing's covering the mic or anything like that. I wonder why some people say it sounds muffled and other people say it's don't, because whenever I listen back to it, it sounds perfectly good. Anyways, let's check the other mics as well before we try to fix anything that may or may not be broken. We will check in with our other commentators out there on the ITL Causeway today. We have Thomas Berghart. Thomas on the camera. Thomas, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Das. Good to be back on the Causeway for a second night in a row. Hoping for a better outcome tonight, though. Hoping for a launch, not a scrub.
All right, and Thomas is running the camera, doing some commentary, some Q&A, a little bit less wind than the last launch. Thomas was out there yesterday for the Atlas launch that didn't go. But we will see if we get a launch for SpaceX this evening, seeing if they can get GPS 3 going. Also, out there on the Causeway, we should have Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor for NASA Spaceflight. Chris, are you with us right now?
Yeah, I'm back in my homeland and I feel normal again.
You're back in your homeland? What does that mean?
Because I've been gone for a couple weeks, that's all. I'm back in my element.
Okay.
Yes, but I am here, yes. With Thomas and with Stephen and with Julia. Yes, we're all here.
Wow, so we've got 4 people out there today for the launch. Thomas, Chris, and then Stephen Marr, the photographer, and Julia, our resident fleet catcher out there. Did I get everybody?
You did. Say hi, Stephen.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
There we go.
Yes. Yeah, so he's setting up cameras, Julia's setting up cameras, and we're going to go and Stephen, you got some ones at the pad too.
Pad, I had to save one because of the Atlas thing. Might be setting up for Atlas tomorrow morning. We don't know, so we got one at the pad.
Yes.
I feel confident about
it. That's what we like. And there goes the security helicopter, so that's good. Progress. It's all about progress.
All right, and then back in the studio, we've also got Michael Baylor. Michael, I think, is on comms already, right, Michael?
Yes, I am. How is everyone doing today? Hopefully, we will get a launch for once.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I hope that we see the launch go. So anyways, folks, like you know, we are live. We'll be watching what's going on here on the live stream. Window just coming up in about 45 minutes. It's 48 minutes. You can see up at the upper left-hand corner of the stream. And I think tonight it's a 15-minute window. So Chris or Thomas, either one of y'all take it away and see what you can do. Let us know what the mission is, when our window is, how long's the window, how many attempts do they get, and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. So today's window lasts 50. window, in order to use anything but the opening of the window, they'd pretty much have to delay well in advance of propellant load. But they're not tracking any issues as far as we're aware, weather-related, technical related. So it should just be the opening of the window. Should any problems occur during the countdown itself, that would of course be a different story. But short window, almost effectively instantaneous. But yeah, tonight's mission carrying a GPS satellite out to medium Earth orbit for the United States Space Force. This is the fourth GPS III satellite to launch. Two of the previous ones have also gone on Falcon 9s. There is one that went on the final flight of the Delta IV medium. After liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage will attempt a drone ship landing on Of Course I Still Love You, which is stationed 600 plus kilometers downrange. There's also one fairing recovery vessel stationed downrange, only one though. The other one back here in Cape Canaveral undergoing some maintenance. So there may be potential for maybe one catch or maybe just two scoops. We'll have to wait and see what SpaceX says on that. But fairing recovery nonetheless underway as well. And right now, the latest weather forecast gives us an 80% chance of favorable weather for tonight's launch, which is excellent. And right now, the sky is very clear above the launch site. It should be a gorgeous launch.
Indeed, it should, and it's worth noting that weather forecast up to 80%. It was originally much lower, a much worse weather forecast than that. But a lot of what they were concerned about stayed to the south of us and stayed to the north of us. I know when we were leaving Daytona, it was raining, it was overcast, it was cloudy. But that was that uncertainty. They just weren't sure where those onshore bands and those onshore flows would end up. But there's a lot more confidence now. So 80% chance of acceptable weather. What you were saying about the window, yes, effectively instantaneous, but not quite as instantaneous as we've seen in the past, because with a 24-minute window, that does give you roughly 10 minutes of hold time in there from where we know at the T-minus 13-minute mark they can actually stop or recycle to, should there be a technical issue. So, but again, GPS effectively instantaneous because of the national security element of this, but not as instantaneous as we've seen before. I think the biggest question on people's minds, though, and I'm sure this is already a question that we've gotten in chat, what happens if for whatever reason GPS can't get off the ground today, but could potentially recycle to 24 hours and try again on Friday, where the Atlas is currently sitting at a nebulous sort of no earlier than date. All ULA has really said is that it would take them 48 hours to reconfigure from the issue yesterday, but in that never actually gave a time for the launch on Friday, just sort of said Friday is the earliest we could try. Well, that would be interesting. We hope we don't get to that. We hope GPS goes absolutely perfectly fine and we don't end up in that situation. But basically, it would come down to a battle of national security priority, and whether whatever is inside the Atlas V payload fairing would supersede the national security concern for GPS. I would personally venture that answer would be yes, that if we do get into a situation where it's either Atlas with NROL 101, or Falcon 9 with GPS, that NROL and Atlas would get would very much get the priority, mainly because we have seen them delay GPS missions before. When the coronavirus pandemic began here, they opted to not ask for the GPS satellite to be classified for national security because the GPS network is still up and running, and replacing this one particular satellite or adding this one new one doesn't effectively change the ability of the constellation or save the ability of the GPS constellation to actually work. So given that, I would assume that NROL would be the priority, especially given what we think is on that particular payload, or what that particular payload is and what they might be going up to replace there. So Atlas would most likely get the priority if we get into that situation. But of course, we hope we don't. We hope we have a wonderful post-sunset liftoff of the Falcon 9 here at 6:24 p.m. Eastern. Sorry, 18:24 UTC.
And Thomas, can you check Discord, please? Something in my back channel.
Yep, I'm checking it right now.
Blake Parsons
Yes.
back with. Oh, go ahead, Chris, if you had something to say.
Oh, no. Sorry, I just didn't want there to be dead air. That's all.
Oh,
Go
no.
ahead. Yeah.
Blake Parsons, thank you for the $8 Australian. Blake Parsons is a large contributor to the stream. He shows it pretty much every time. So thank you so much, Blake. And again, if you have questions, please tag us in chat. I will be working in the background to help find questions for the team to answer.
And y'all, I do see the comments on audio and stuff like that. A lot of people saying it's perfectly fine, and other people saying that there's some issues. I am hearing Chris fade in and out on occasion, so that's something that we're looking at right now. But I'm actually going to be quiet for a bit as I listen to the actual audio that's being sent to the stream. So we will let y'all know.
Gotcha. So yeah, so I think one of the exciting things though that we have that's sort of all built up and gotten to this middle of November period here, and I know that's kind of weird to say early in November, but we have GPS tonight, we have Atlas tomorrow, and then we are of course coming what you can really sort of feel the anticipation for here at the Cape is getting these missions up and out of the way. Of course, the data that they'll get from Falcon 9's performance today will feed directly into the flight readiness review and launch readiness reviews for the uberly important Crew 1 launch that is currently scheduled for the 14th of November at 7:49 p.m. 1949 EST. That's the big launch that everyone is waiting for. And something that we're also watching here in Florida as these launches sort of build up and as we approach Crew 1 is the approach of Tropical Storm Eta to Florida, which is basically going to do a very space appropriate S-curve maneuver out over the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico with quite a bit of path uncertainty as to where it's going to eventually end up and what its impact weather-wise is going to be to Florida next week. So we'll of course be watching that because next week, not just do we have crew arrival, but we have the static fire of the Falcon 9, we have the launch day dress rehearsals that the crew goes through and that the teams here at Kennedy will go through as well. But that's obviously the big one that we are waiting for and anticipating here after GPS and Atlas go today.
Yeah. Chris, what microphone are you using right now? Because we're still having massive issues with you fading in and out. We really need to get that resolved. Is this a headset mic or is this your phone mic? What are you on this evening?
It's the headset mic. My only option is to completely take it down and then you would hear everything around
It's
me.
not possible to disable the headset mic and only listen on the headset? Is that an option for you?
The wind noise is going to be a lot worse on my cell phone than
Huh. Whatever we're
my
using right now,
headphone microphone.
you're talking and then we just completely lose you for like 3 seconds every so often.
Oh, that's not a microphone thing. That'll be the connection to the cell network here. So there's nothing.
Yeah, that's a connection thing, guys.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
Thomas,
nothing that can be done.
Thomas, we're not having any issues with you. You're perfectly clear and you don't fade in and out. So whatever.
Yeah,
the
I'm
DC
hearing Chris
says-
talk in real time. His voice lags a little bit between when I hear it on Discord and when I hear it in real life. It's 100% a connection thing. You're not missing any of the words. You're just getting them on slightly different time scales.
All right. So y'all, we'll continue to deal with that issue if we don't have a way to solve that this evening. We really need to standardize a lot of the audio stuff here. Everybody using personal gear, and it makes it a little bit difficult. I know a ton of people are complaining about the fading in and out. That makes it really difficult to keep up with what Chris is saying. But we'll have to do the best we can with that. Again, they're out there on the causeway using their own cell phones. And every now and then we have some issues. This is the exact same issue we were having with the headset yesterday, and it's just fading in and out pretty regularly. So we're aware of the issue. We don't know that we can do anything about it this evening, but we'll keep looking at it. How do I sound, by the way? While we're at it, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me better now? Like, let me know. So we're 5 by 5. Okay, so people are reporting that my audio is fine. Okay, good to go. All right. So, anyways, we're standing by. We've got what do we got here? We've got 38 minutes before the potential launch of GPS-3. This is another attempt at GPS-3. This is the first time SpaceX has rolled this out, but hopefully in about 18 minutes we see some venting start from the rocket. What is it? It's 35 minutes. They start the fueling, and then we get the big vent at 20 minutes, right? T minus 20 minutes. Did I get
That
those
is
numbers right?
correct. Yeah, that is correct. Yes, exactly right, Doss. And I think this dovetails nicely into what Thomas was just wanting to talk about, because you're right, what you just said. This isn't the first time they've hauled this run out to the launch pad for an attempt. We had a very eventful post-engine start command abort about a month ago, but I know, Thomas, you've been following that a lot with what that investigation has shown and what it was.
Yeah, so this is not the first launch attempt for this particular mission. In fact, the first launch attempt was over a month ago now, back on October 2nd. This mission got to T minus 2 seconds before aborting right after engine ignition was commanded. And that was due to an engine issue. I'll talk about that in a second. But the implications of that have been this booster being grounded for over a month, as well as almost all other new Falcon 9 boosters, due to their investigation into the issue that plagued this flight. Actually being symptomatic of an issue across the Falcon 9 fleet. We've seen lots of other Falcon 9s, however, launching without a problem, and that's because those have been flying on reused hardware, flight-proven hardware, as SpaceX likes to call them. Boosters that have flown before and not had this issue. And part of the SpaceX investigation did find out that this particular issue only applied to some of the first stage engines on some of the newer Falcon 9 boosters. So after the abort to this mission back on the first week of October, they, of course, stood down. They wanted to know exactly what was going on. The thing they detected is called an early start. 2 of the 9 Merlin engines started early, basically, and had an unexpected rise in pressure in the gas generators on the first stage Merlin engines. So they investigated that. They found at the end of that investigation that there was some leftover material from the engine's production process, the manufacturing process, that was clogging a relief valve, which was, of course, not allowing the pressure to relieve as it was supposed to during engine start. Luckily, of course, Falcon 9's onboard computers automatically aborted the launch that day because it detected an issue as they are supposed to and allowed them to complete this investigation. 2 of those 2 engines that had the early start on this mission were swapped out. This is booster 1062. There was also engines swapped from B1061, the Falcon 9 booster slated to launch Crew 1 later this month. 1 engine from that booster swapped out, and then 2 engines swapped out from the booster for Sentinel-6, a NASA satellite launching from Vandenberg later this month. So a couple engine swaps to counteract this issue. All the other engines were all inspected, and they made sure that the issues did not apply to them. Big job well done to the teams at McGregor, Texas, and SpaceX who completed the investigation and the testing or surrounding it. This booster, of course, is now cleared to fly again and ready to make another launch attempt tonight. Crew 1 now back on track to launch later this month after being delayed due to this issue. And the same thing with the Sentinel-6 launch, delayed to later this month, but now in preparations and on track to launch. So that has been something that SpaceX took very good care for, especially with such high-profile missions coming up. The GPS satellite for the Department of Defense and 2 big-time NASA missions, including Crew. You want to make sure you thoroughly understand any issues that you are seeing, and they're addressed across the entire Falcon 9 fleet. So that has been something that has finally come to a resolution, and we're ready for some new Falcon 9 boosters to start making their first flights again, starting with tonight.
All right, good deal. Again, y'all, the NASA Spaceflight team here this evening. You just heard the voice of Thomas Berghart. He's out there on the causeway operating the camera. Also out on the causeway, we've got Chris Gebhardt. You hear Chris's voice every now and then. Chris, say hi real quick so we can do a check-in.
Hello, I'm still here.
There we go. Excellent. That's Chris Gebhardt. Back in the studio, I'm John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight, and Michael Baylor is back in the studio as well.
Just a quick update from Michael. Propellant load did start on time, so they are currently targeting the opening of today's window at 6:24 p.m. local time.
Excellent. I was wondering if I saw like a little teeny tiny bit of venting starting to come off the side of the rocket there. So confirmed they have entered the prop load, correct?
Yes, they called that out on the countdown net.
All right, good deal. I also saw another question I got to hit real quick. We got some super chats and stuff like that. Again, if you have questions for us, put at NASA Spaceflight into chat. and put your question after it. Just tag us so we can do it. But let's check in with the fleet cam really quickly and see if we've got a view from fleet cam. We do. A little bit further away and some port equipment in the shot there. But we do have a shot from Port Canaveral as well of SLC-40. Earlier there was a big ship. There was a cargo ship that was in the way, and luckily that cargo ship rolled out a little bit earlier, got out of our way so we can actually see Pad 40. So interestingly, these two angles are almost the exact same angle. If we were able to see past the trees there, Thomas and Chris would most likely be in this shot from Fleet Cam's perspective. But we will be watching both here as we go for lunch. I think.
What, you can't see us waving?
I know. Wait, like hold your hand up really high above the trees. Jump a little bit. So we will see what we're able to see from both of these places. Again, these are both NASA spaceflight cameras. One operated by the crew out on the ITL Causeway, Thomas and Chris, and Julia and Steven, all of them out there this evening. And the other one is that robotic camera that's installed at Rusty's Seafood and Oyster Bar over at Port Canaveral. Michael, are you going to try to track from Fleet Cam tonight?
Yes, I think so. I am working on figuring out what settings I want to use tonight. But I've played around with it before, and it's not too easy to control it with the interface we have. We're working on a better system, but the last launch we got pretty good, and I have a strategy to make this track even better. So we'll see how good I do.
Nice. Well, good luck with that. Again, that robotic camera, Michael operating it from what, like 3,000 miles away or something, Michael?
Yeah, 2,500 or 3,000, somewhere around there. I'm in California, so the complete opposite side of the country, but I'm about to attempt to track a rocket launch from Florida, so that's pretty cool.
All right, let me grab the super chats really quickly and run through those. Rough Rider Show showing up saying GPS is the key to Crew 1. Nice. Those engine issues they were looking at seemingly under control with SpaceX there. Thank you for the $5. Rough Riders. We also got Rusty Can tossing in 2 curly L's. Evening, guys. Let's have a success. That sounds good to me, Rusty Can. I think we'd all like to see a launch this evening. We do not want no launch November or whatever we're calling it. I think we were going for no scrub November, but that didn't work out yesterday. So let's see what we can get done. James Alkins, $10 saying, my daily fix is NSF. Keep up all the awesome work. Thank you so much for the kind words, James, and the $10. There's one beat short saying, how long will it take SpaceX to tally the go, no go poll? Nice. I think the timing required to have all of the stations report in their vote for go no go is pretty strictly controlled. I do not think we're going to have to wait months or weeks to hear the go no go poll there. Thank you for the $5. One beat short. New membership, Clinton Hunter. Thank you so much, Clinton, for joining the club over here. And CANP Railroad, no scrub November, right? Yeah, but yesterday, there's already a scrub yesterday. What are you going to do? And Moldy
We
Space.
call it no launch November then.
No launch November. Don't jinx it. The rocket will hear you. The last but not least, we've got Moldy Space Industries here. $5 for the hashtag Thomas Fan Club. There you go, Thomas. So, y'all, thank you so much for all the support, all the super chats and memberships and people that show up and watch the stream, all the different ways you support. We're able to do these things because you keep showing up, and we really do appreciate everybody joining us this evening as we are now just under 30 minutes from the launch, the scheduled launch of GPS 3 with SpaceX on the Falcon 9 from SLC 40. Let me see if I can grab some questions here and toss them out to the folks in the field. Here's a good one. Chris and Thomas. Is GPS 3 a new generation GPS? Like, why is this launch important? Who cares?
That's a great question, and if I could unmute my mic faster, I could answer it faster. But yes, this is the 3rd generation of the GPS satellite constellation, and it has a couple upgrades for improved accuracy as well as improved resistance to jamming efforts, because the GPS is also a huge asset for the United States military and our allies. And of course, it's actually interesting. So the GPS satellite broadcasts on 2 different frequencies, and if you're using GPS as a civilian, your phone will receive those frequencies from a couple different satellites at once and be able to determine your location from that. However, there is the second frequency, which is of course heavily encrypted, is what's used by the United States military and our allies' military, things like that. And that signal is actually much more accurate. They actually have an improved accuracy over the civilian frequency, but it's all the same satellite network. It's an interesting factoid there, but this is an upgrade, and that's why Chris mentioned it earlier. This isn't a super urgent mission because if you're using if you've used GPS today in the car or something, it's working perfectly well. This is an upgrade that's replacing some of the older satellites that are still working, but we want to improve the system. So it's not super urgent, but yes, this is an upgrade to your GPS services.
And to sort of put it into perspective of what kind of an upgrade this offers once enough of the GPS 3 generations are up in orbit. Right now, the current civilian GPS network gives you an accuracy of roughly 30 feet. So if you've ever been driving down the car or driving down the road and your GPS says, in X number of feet, turn right as you whiz by the street that it's telling you to turn on. Well, that's part of the GPS positioning gap right now. But this new generation will actually get it down to roughly 3 feet accuracy on the civilian network and less than a foot accuracy on the military network. So a fairly significant increase in capability for pinpoint location for the new network.
Good deal. Got another question here. Where can we see the launch from tonight? I mean, certainly if you're around the Space Coast, you're in Coco, you're in Titusville, it's hard to hide a rocket once it launches around there. But is this going up the East Coast? Is it going straight out east? Is it going south? What's the trajectory look like? And how does that affect people's ability to maybe see it from where they are?
Yeah, so actually, if it's clear along the eastern seaboard of the United States, we're going to get a great view of it if it's clear. This is going into a 55-degree inclination orbit, meaning it will, when it launches northeast out of here, it will actually track closer to the coast than crew and station missions do on the Falcon 9s, and slightly closer to the coast than the Starlink missions do as well, because the station's 51.6 degrees, the Starlinks are 53 degrees, and now GPS is 55 degrees, so a little bit closer to the coastline. So the Carolinas, if you're on the coast of the north of the Carolinas and it's clear today, you'll be able to see the entry and at least the entry burn. We don't think the landing burn because of how far out to sea it is, but you never know. Go out and look. But yes, you should get really good views, especially in the New England states, as well as the second stage continues to fire.
Gotcha. So we've had this weird time change happen over here in the States recently. And are we going to be able to get any of that jellyfish effect, or is the launch just too far after sundown this evening?
Yeah, that's what we're going to be waiting for. So the jellyfish is predominantly a morning event here in Florida. This is we're saying it's a good question. The big spectacular jellyfishes are our morning event here because basically the rocket has to be backlit by the sun from your viewing location. So unfortunately, nighttime launches, you don't get that big jellyfish effect here on the East Coast because the sun is backlighting your rocket. The sun is backlighting you in relation to how the rocket is seeing things. So, and it's the exact opposite on the West Coast where you're viewing it, where just the viewing locations are different because they're heading out east from here. So we don't expect a huge jellyfish. We might get a second stage contrail, but that would be more from moonlight that's backlighting it than the sun at this point. Whether
Gotcha.
or not it will break back into daylight, I'm not entirely sure because we are far later into post sunset than we would have been for the Atlas yesterday around this time as well. So potential for a pretty spectacular thing, but not the big jellyfish you're thinking of.
Right. Normally, it has to be pretty soon after the sun goes down there in order to get that effect. So the sunlight still hits the rocket in the plume while it's dark there on the ground. But it's probably a little bit too late after sunset here this evening. Let me grab some more questions really quickly. I just got to scroll through and see if I can find something related.
So at this point, we're about 24 minutes away from liftoff. I think I muted myself. No, I wasn't. Okay, sorry. I thought I had. But at this point, we're about 24 minutes away from liftoff. You can see condensation and vapors around the base of the Falcon 9 as that super cold liquid oxygen and RP1 kerosene is being loaded into the first stage simultaneously there. And we're about 3.5 minutes away from that big T-minus 20-minute event that we're used to seeing.
Good deal. Here's another question. Where is the rocket going tonight? Is it returning to the launch site? Is it going all the way down to a drone ship? What's the plan? And if it's going to the drone ship, which one's it going for?
That's a great question. The drone ship for this mission is, of course, I Still Love You. That's because this mission is going all the way up to medium Earth orbit, a very high orbit. Therefore, Falcon 9 needs to use a lot of energy to get that satellite as high as it can. And therefore, the first stage does not have the extra propellant to come back and land here at the Cape. So we'll be landing downrange on, of course, I Still Love You, was originally going to land on Just Read the Instructions before the mission got delayed a month. But, of course, I Still Love You on drone ship duty tonight. And that's stationed about 634 kilometers downrange, if I remember the number correctly, just off the coast of the Carolinas.
Gotcha. All right. And again, I'm like scrolling through trying to pull some questions out of chat here so I can relay them to y'all about 2.5 minutes before we're expecting that big vent to occur, that T-minus 20-minute vent. So y'all keep an eye out for that. That is going to happen shortly here. Let's see here. Just trying to find something. The weather report. Do we have an update on the percentage of violation this evening? How's that looking?
80%. Oh, go ahead, Thomas. Sorry.
You're good. The latest probability of violation we got was a 20% chance of violating the rules, therefore an 80% go forecast. And as of now, weather is observed go, so no weather being monitored at this time. It could change in the last 20 minutes or so of the countdown. We are in Florida, but right now everything is looking good as far as weather concerned.
Yeah, and it's an absolutely gorgeous evening here on the Space Coast. It's in the low 70s, a nice breeze, low humidity, epic sunset. It's a good day. That 80% has a good chance of materializing.
Good deal. Let's see here. Did we say the altitude? This is from iPredator, the altitude that they're shooting for these GPS III satellites. Do we know how high they're going?
Yes. So the GPS satellites operate in 20,200 kilometer circular orbits. That's technically what's known as a medium Earth orbit. So 20,200 kilometers is the circularized orbit that the satellite will eventually end up in. What Falcon 9 is targeting tonight is a 20,000 by 12,000 kilometer insertion orbit that it will drop the GPS satellite off into, and then the satellite will use its own maneuvering thrusters and propellant to raise the apogee up to the 20,000 kilometer mark, and then the additional 200 kilometers up to circularize the orbit for operation. And that is done because at that altitude, so at 20,200 kilometers altitude, at a 55-degree inclination, you can see the entire world. You get complete polar coverage without actually having to insert into the less efficient polar orbits. So that is why they chose medium Earth orbit. And there is our T-minus 20-minute vent from the Falcon 9. Very happy out on pad 40, and we hope it stays that way. Yes.
There you go. Again, right when the clock gets around T-minus 20 minutes, you expect to see that big vent right there. Like clockwork, you know that things are going down the right path if at T-minus 20 we get that big vent. Let's pop over and see if we can see it. What's it look like from Fleet Cam? You got a little bit of stuff in the way, but it's just there. You can really see that over on Fleet Cam as well from Port Canaveral. Again, these two cameras are at almost the same angle. Chris and Thomas are sort of in the shot out way behind the trees. Y'all are like 3.5 miles away, I think, right? The Causeway ITL is like 3.5 miles from this pad. I think so. I think we might have lost him real quick there.
No, I was muted. Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, exactly what you were saying there, Das. 3 to 3.5 miles is correct, depending on exactly where on the causeway we particularly are. But from 40, yeah, roughly 3 miles, 5 kilometers.
Gotcha. So Fleet Cam's over, it's like 10.3 miles away, I think. Now, last time I looked at it, 10.3 miles. So a little bit of a different view there, but we are now under 19 minutes away from the launch here. Like we said earlier, Chris, this is a single shot attempt. They have a 15-minute window, but if they don't hit the time they're looking for, there's not enough time to recycle. Did I get that right?
Basically, the launch window is a little bit more than what they would theoretically need. We know there's a stable hold point for the Falcon 9 at T-minus 13 minutes. which is where they can hold in a stable configuration, or if they pass that point, that's the point they recycle back to. So basically, it would come down to when would an abort be called and why. But because this is a big mission for national security and it's a tight launch window, it effectively becomes instantaneous, even though technically they would have time to recycle if the issue wasn't too serious, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's just
Okay,
the window has a little bit of time, a little bit of leeway in there, but not a lot of time to resolve any issues that come up. So hopefully we see this thing
Yeah.
going in about 18 minutes, it looks like. Which
So
again, the
it
vent
kind of
happened.
yes, so, but the event happened, which is good. And this is where it gets tricky. Where like if the issue were to happen now and they were able to stop now, you have the full 14 minutes to try to fix it, right?
Right.
And move on. But once you pass the T-minus 14-minute mark, you start eating into the amount of time. No, I'm sorry. You have more than 14 minutes to fix it if you stop now, even though the window's only 14 minutes, right? Because you can kind of keep counting, knowing there's a problem and you're trying to fix it. So it buys you some more time because you don't necessarily have to full stop it, right, to resolve particular issues. Whereas once you pass the 14-minute mark, then you start eating into the 14 minutes that you actually have to fix the issue.
Right.
It's weird and complicated, but basically, if you keep counting trying to solve the issue and you've got window, you're giving yourself more time to fix the issue than if you stop the countdown. Sounds
Right.
completely counterintuitive, but it works mathematically.
It works mathematically. I like it.
Yeah.
Hey, let me grab some super chats really quickly here. Clinton Hunter, thanks for the $5. How excited is everyone to see SpaceX put on a show Monday or Tuesday with the 15K hop? So, looking at the SpaceX schedule, of course, this is a SpaceX launch, so we can talk about SpaceX. What are we looking at down at Boca Chica? Do we have a firm date for that yet, or is it still sort of very fluid? Anybody want to jump on that grenade?
Yeah, so the chat said Monday or Tuesday, and unfortunately, I'm going to be the bearer of bad news for that person because it's not happening Monday or Tuesday. There is several tests that need to happen before the high altitude SN8 test, and a bunch of road closures were just canceled earlier today, indicating that there is a slight slip coming into play. Basically, we're not going to have a firm date for that test until all the tests that have to come before it, including several static fire tests, are finished. Now, I can give you the general timeline of it should probably happen sometime this month, assuming all the tests go well leading up to it. But next Monday or Tuesday is not happening. Personally, I would be very surprised if it happened before the Crew 1 launch on November 14th. Looking at the second half of November, most likely. But again, SpaceX has impressed us with their timeliness before. Yeah, it's not happening in the very near future. There are several key tests that need to happen first, and those are taking some time. Not next week.
You know how it is.
And-
SpaceX
and-
gonna SpaceX. Go ahead, Chris.
Exactly. SpaceX is going to SpaceX, but I think
Sorry,
what Thomas,
breaking
right,
news.
the point that Thomas is making
Sorry,
here.
this is not related to this launch, but it's important for this weekend.
Oh,
I just got an email from ULA. They are now targeting Sunday, November 8th. It's 5:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, pending range approval for the NROL 101 mission. So we have a new launch date for the other launch that scrubbed yesterday. Yesterday.
And that means that if this mission were for any reason not to go tonight, that they would have its backup opportunity available tomorrow on Friday. So Atlas 5 not holding the range Friday, they won't try again until Sunday, which means this mission has a little bit of wiggle room should that be needed. Of course, right now everything looking picture perfect, so hopefully that's not needed. But thank you for that update, Michael.
Yeah, Thomas, I was going to say, don't tell the rocket that it doesn't have to go tonight.
No.
We don't want it to know.
Falcon 9, you have to go tonight, okay? You cannot stay here. Forget everything I just said.
It's going to be like January if you don't go tonight. One of those GSE valves will hear you or something. We do not want to say that stuff out loud. Again, y'all, just over 14 minutes. We're about to cross T-minus 14 minutes. This is a GPS 3-4 satellite for the Space Force. It is a global positioning satellite, single satellite going up. Are there any ride shares or other secondary payloads on this, or this is a Space Force mission? It's sort of that's the only payload allowed.
No, but not necessarily because of the launch customer. We did have the giant STP-2 mission on Falcon Heavy last year, which had dozens of ride share payloads on board. So occasionally the Air Force or Space Force will hitch a ride with some other customers on board as well. But for this particular mission, it's more a matter of going to such a high medium Earth orbit. with a reasonably heavy payload. The GPS satellites are not tiny. There's not really a lot of performance for any right-share payloads on board, and also medium Earth orbit is kind of only used by GPS satellites. A lot of other missions wouldn't really make much use out of that orbit. They'd like to go to low Earth orbit or a sun-synchronous orbit or something like that. That's more commonly used. So no right-share payloads on board today, just the one GPS III SV04 satellite. Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, I got a lot more questions for you, Thomas. So I'll keep
Go for it.
tossing these over. This is an interesting one that came through, and I thought that I would toss it out for the class. Does anything rocket related ever happen in Illinois? Do we know of any space company that builds anything in Illinois? Clearly, there are no
There
launches in Illinois.
there are no launches in Illinois, but there are companies that provide components of rockets or equipment for ground infrastructure or satellites in Illinois. Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find a state in the U.S. that doesn't actually contribute. Like even Connecticut and Rhode Island are contributing things to SLS and things like that, and they're the smallest states by geographic area. Even Wyoming, the smallest state by population, uh, it contributes. So yeah, you're pretty hard pressed to find a state that doesn't have some connection to it.
Gotcha. I hadn't seen that before, so I thought I'd human hold and leave there. Thanks for the question. Not any launches happening, but there may be some companies out there. It's one of the things. Like there's so many different ways. If you want to be involved in spaceflight, you want to be an engineer, go to school for that or something like that. You don't even have to be an engineer. I mean, they need marketing people, they need accountants. There's all sorts of different ways to get involved with spaceflight. Let me
And
grab
yeah,
I mean. Oh, go ahead, Thomas.
I was
Yeah.
just going to point out one of the biggest spaceflight companies in the world, Boeing, is headquartered in Chicago. So there's at least one example.
Oh,
So,
Oh well, oops. There we go.
well, there you go.
Well, and so again, not as humorous as that, but what I was going to say is, you know, a lot of Air Force bases are becoming Space Force bases, right? The Air Force is very much involved in space, so you could legitimately. This isn't the question, and this isn't to the spirit of the question that was being asked, but you could make the argument that Air Force bases and Space Force bases count as well, of which there are bases in Illinois
Sure.
as well.
Yeah.
So you
I'll
could make
take it.
that claim as well. Yeah. If you wanted to stretch it. That's not the spirit of the question, but if you wanted.
Yeah. All good. All good. Let me rapid fire some more questions at y'all here. See how many we can get through. Fairings. What's going on with the fairings this evening? I know that I saw a fairing catcher leave. Are they going to try to catch one and fish the other? Are they fishing both? What's the word on the fairings this evening?
if I say it wrong, Julia, who's just across from me, will correct me, but I'm 99% certain it's Mischief that is downrange for tonight's mission. And Julia says I'm right. Woo! I had a 50-50 shot. All right. So Mischief is stationed downrange for fairing recovery efforts. We're not sure if they're going to go for a catch and a scoop or just two scoops. We do know they can recover the fairings after they splash down and they just pick them out of the ocean. They prefer to catch them because that keeps them dry. It makes them easier to refly, but it's not a deal breaker. But they only have one ship out there right now. Gomish Tree is still sitting here in Port Canaveral undergoing some maintenance after some prior missions. So only one fairing recovery. As far as the fairings that are on this flight, as far as I know, they are both brand new. They are not reflown fairings, just like the first stage is brand new on its first flight. So all new flight hardware today, but both the first stage and the fairings will hopefully be recovered to fly again on future missions. And it should be noted that after this mission, future GPS launches will actually be using flight-proven boosters, and that's a new thing we haven't talked about yet. The United States Space Force finally approved the use of flight-proven boosters on their missions, starting with the next two GPS missions after this one, which means that this first stage booster might actually be reserved for the next GPS launch. Sometimes the customer likes to fly the same booster on both of their missions. That's not confirmed, I don't think, but it's possible for sure. But yeah, so this might be one of the last big big DoD missions that require new boosters. I know the next Falcon Heavy mission needs new boosters, and they've already started building them and testing them at McGregor's. So that mission will still remain that it'll have brand new boosters. But going forward, we're expected to see a lot of military and Department of Defense missions using flight-proven hardware, which is another big step forward for SpaceX and for the DoD saving their resources on buying launch services.
Good deal. Let's see here. Where are we at? We're at T minus 8.5 minutes. Everything continuing to tick down towards this launch of the Falcon 9 from SLC 40. Let me see if I can grab something else. Do we know how many sats are going up? One single satellite. It is one big honkin' GPS satellite that's going up. Mr. Plays. Let's see here. Will I be able to view the launch from Massachusetts? You may, if you've got a clear sky, be able to see the second stage going. If I'm not mistaken, from Massachusetts, not probably going to get that big jellyfish effect, so it may be sort of hard to see. It may very well just be a tiny point of light going across the sky. Go ahead.
DOS, there's a problem on Fleet Cam.
Okay.
There's a big boat. And it
Oh no!
might...
No! No! No!
I'll
Did
make
we
it.
get blocked by a boat at T minus 7 minutes? No! Are you kidding me?
This is ridiculous.
I'm working on making it brighter. 1 second, but oh my god, this is unbelievable.
They couldn't have waited
Well, this
8
is-
minutes.
Well, this is why we're very grateful for the camera we have here at the causeway. That will also
Wait, is
track
it going?
No,
is it
no,
going
it's gonna.
past though.
It may go past. It may be in the north turning basin whenever the launch goes. It's not slowing down yet. Keep going, Lauritsen. Keep going. Get out of our way.
It's
Yeah,
like
I
when
think
all
it's-
those people arrived in Atlanta to watch that stadium be demolished and the bus blocked the view, like at the last second.
Hopefully this ends up like somewhere a little bit further north, but that is live from the Fleet Cam over at Rusty's Restaurant at Port Canaveral, and at T minus 6 minutes and 45 seconds, that big cargo ship, that's like a bulk cargo ship. Go back to Pad 40 real quick, Michael. Let's see if we can see Pad 40. I think that the
Yeah,
ship has gone by.
I was watching Pad 40, and all of a sudden a big object passed into my view. But let's see what we get here. There's Pad 40.
Okay, whew. So we do have a clear view of Pad 40 from Fleet Cam right now. That cargo ship not blocking us.
Good.
Oh,
Hey,
no.
it's an active port, right? That's part of what we show here is all the things coming together and happening at the same time.
It's hilarious that it's like T minus 7 minutes and all of a sudden suddenly cargo ship appears. Let me see if I can grab another question or two. Here's a good one. I like this one. Gaming with Gravy asks, what would happen to you if you were to somehow end up in that side vent vapor? So we see all the vapors coming off the side. We see the venting. What would happen if that like hit you in the face?
Well, it would be one heck of a way to end your tenure on Earth.
To be fair, I mean, it is just oxygen, but it's very cold oxygen and dangerously cold. I highly recommend not doing that.
Wait,
Plus for the
what are they talking about? The oxygen vent at T minus 20 or the flame trench blowout at T0?
Oh,
I
not the
thought
flame trench.
no, I thought
No.
he said the oxygen vapor.
Oh, I thought you meant the flame trench. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I mean-
know if standing in super cold oxygen vapor is survivable. I'm not going to
lungs.
say what I think it is.
Oh.
Just don't do it. All right.
Don't do
I
it.
don't
Look.
recommend. It's super. It's that oxygen is super cold, and the reason they do that is so that they can densify it and make it pack as much as they can into the rocket. But that means it's super cold, and I wouldn't recommend being near something that.
It would still freeze your lungs, I would imagine. It's not breathable oxygen coming out of that thing. Yeah, in terms
Right.
of like what you could survive. Yeah.
Plus, that also
All right.
means you're standing next to a rocket at T minus 20 minutes, which is a different problem. So just
Right.
don't do it.
Let me we've got just over 4 minutes. Let me run a couple super chats real quick. We're 20 minutes behind on the super chats. Space in and out, or Space and Out actually. Thank you for the 1776. Nice. $17.76. Hey guys, what's the
I
inclination for
appreciate
tonight's
that
launch?
immensely. Thank you.
I know, right?
appreciate that amount. Yes.
So the inclination, I think you said it was 55 degrees, Chris. Did I remember
That is
correctly?
correct. Yes.
All right, spacing out. Thanks for that 1776, a very patriotic super chat there. Team 34 asks, what happens if the Falcon 9 landing burn fails? Well, if the landing burn fails, we put a temporary hole in the ocean. The water will heal it pretty quickly, but
Yes.
it will put
I
a
like
hole in
that.
the ocean.
Yeah, so it will do that. Basically, if the landing burn fails, nothing, it just impacts the water because they're not actually targeting the drone ship.
Gotcha. Let me, I'm going to run some more questions here really quickly. Oh, we're down to 3 minutes. Let me just get one or two more, then we'll get caught up with the rest of them afterwards. James Brown, why is the only thing you see during a night launch is the fire from the rocket launching? It's an exposure thing. It's like when you're on the surface of the moon, why don't you see any stars? A camera that's able to deal with all of the bright, intense light coming from the rocket engine and also expose for dimmer light sources is pretty tough. And so when the engine goes, it's so bright, the cameras try to basically not burn themselves out and they sort of expose for those engine flames as opposed to being able to see all the other details. So you'll really just see that engine flame whenever it goes. If you have more expensive cameras, you get more detail on other stuff. But that's why you see that. Gustav Fredrickson is a new membership, and at T-minus 2.5 minutes, I think that it's time for us to swap over to the camera microphone and batten down the hatches for this attempt at GPS 3. Thomas
Yeah,
and
one
Chris,
second,
go ahead.
I want to just tag on to your answer to that other question, and you will see it here in just about 2 minutes. It's hard to overstate just how bright a rocket launch is. It's basically nighttime. You can kind of see the very last bits of sunlight behind us, but it is effectively nighttime. It is going to become daytime in 2 minutes. Rocket launches are ridiculously bright. It's going to feel like we're in daylight when this thing lifts off. So yes, the camera cannot see any detail from a rocket exhaust and the rocket itself when it's a night launch like this.
Good deal. All right. So
All right, and I am ready at the camera to switch over audio.
Okay, cool. So we're bringing up your camera audio. And we are bringing down your Discord audio. You can just leave your mic muted on Discord, but we are now on camera audio.
And there is the 2.5. All right, and there is our big vent around the T-minus 2.5 minute mark. Another thing that we really look for telling us that the Falcon 9 is healthy and ready to go. Now, Michael, I'm not hearing a countdown in my ear, so I'll need some call-out cues based on timing if we can't get that audio.
We're just coming up on T-minus 60 seconds here. You'll hear me in real time. So there's 60 seconds right there. We'll give you 30 and 50.
All right. Perfect. Thank you much. All right, and just standing by now for a launch of the Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station and Pad 41. And I just heard them say go for launch over the audio. Alrighty, less than half a minute to go now.
And we're coming up on 15 seconds, Chris, right there.
Alrighty, thank you much. Alrighty, so we have passed 15 seconds. There go the sound suppression system, all activating. We have main engine ignition, and we have a liftoff of the Falcon 9 with the 4th GPS 3 satellite. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous and loud start to Falcon 9's journey. All right. right, and we are going through max Q now on the vehicle. All right, look at that engine shot as Falcon 9 continues to go downrange, flying northeast out of the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. A gorgeous start to the mission. Here today, that first stage contrail expanding in the atmosphere as atmospheric density gets lower and lower, the plume expands, and you can see it changing color there as we escape a lot of the oxygen in the dense lower atmosphere. Standing by now for stage cutoff and separation of the two stages here as Falcon 9 continues to head away from us. There we see the first stage disappearing from view at stage engine cutoff. And we see the ignition of the Merlin vac engine there. Lost it in the live feed here from the ground, but we can see it very, very clearly up in the atmosphere. A successful stage separation and a successful ignition of the Merlin vac engine here.
Over that way and Thomas, you can hear me right now.
Hey, Das, I don't know if you can hear us, but we're not hearing you anymore over our comm.
I can take over if needed, Chris. So right now we're looking at the first stage booster on the left-hand side of our screen, coming back to the drone ship, and on the right, the MVAC engine continues to glow bright red as it carries the GPS III satellite towards its initial parking orbit.
Cool, and as long as you all can still hear us, that's fine. We were just kind of completely in the dark here, didn't know if we had dropped or what, but yes. So what we have seen is a successful first stage flight of the Falcon 9 so far. We still have eyes on it actually here. It's very dim, but we can see the second stage aiming basically right back at us here. And we anticipate potentially being able to see the entry burn as well of that first stage as it heads toward the drone ship. You can see it's kind of broken back into day. You can actually see it, that's daylight reflecting off of it. It looks like, so that's how high up it is right now as we approach the 5-minute mark into the flight today. That Merlin vac engine burning bright, everything going well so far. I know Steven's ready for that entry burn. I see him. He's like all, and Julia too, like they're all set. They're waiting for it if we can see it, because it's pretty spectacular. And we can still barely see the second stage, which is giving us a good visual of where that entry burn will be if we're able to see it here in about a minute. But all continuing to go well. Good telemetry downlink from the Falcon 9, good velocity targets. Oh, there it is. There it is. We can see the entry burn. Great. Oh, that is so cool. And oh, that is so cool to see. And there it goes. Bloop. Oh, it went behind a cloud. It's back. Nice. Nice.
I tried to
Okay.
I tried to see it on Fleet Cam. I think it was blocked by clouds from our perspective here. I did not see it.
Gotcha. Yeah, not surprising it did go between some clouds, and that 10-mile difference can make all the difference really when we're talking about cloud cover in Florida. But that was gorgeous. That was absolutely gorgeous. So now we are standing by for the attempted landing of the Falcon 9 as it will
Yeah.
be dropping down towards
And just
toward the
quickly,
drone
Chris,
ship.
we are seeing the entry burn on the SpaceX feed right now. That feed's obviously on a longer delay. We are streaming from our cameras in real time, but the SpaceX feed has a long delay, so that's why you're now seeing the re-entry burn on the SpaceX feed.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, so that delay coming on SpaceX's side, not us. So that was the entry burn you just heard us geeking out about a minute ago. So which means they should be coming up on landing right about now. I don't know if if you can listen to the launch director Luke to
We'll,
give us an update.
we'll see the landing happen on real time on the SpaceX feed.
Okay. And meanwhile, of course, the second stage continuing to take the vehicle onward to orbit, awaiting reacquisition of those signals and those feeds from SpaceX as the booster descends to the drone ship and the second stage continues to haul GPS into orbit. Of course, a large part of this mission, this is the final flight of the Falcon 9 before the Crew 1 mission in 9 days. So a lot of this engine data review will feed into the launch readiness review and the flight readiness review for that very important mission for NASA and the International Space Station program as we await word on on the status of the boosters. And here comes the landing right now on their feed, it looks like. It looks like, and it froze on my end. Ah, there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is. And
Yet, of course, I still love you, Starlink people.
it's landed. There it is. On just read the instructions. A successful landing of the Falcon 9. This being the first flight of this particular booster. And we are, and there we go, the feed required from the second stage engine shutdown. So the second stage should also be in its initial parking orbit at this time. And there's a view of the GPS III SV04 satellite and back to the Merlin vac engine there. But very successful. The second stage is in orbit with GPS 3, vehicle 4. It's going to be a long ride to deployment, about an hour and a half ish here for the deployment. There's a second burn that will be coming up as well, but the important thing is they're in their initial parking orbit and the first stage is on the drone ship. Thomas, how was that?
That was awesome. It's great to see it lift off the first launch of November. I remember just a couple of years ago, SpaceX had this weird November curse going on where they couldn't get a mission to launch in November. I think it might have been the first time last year they launched anything in November, or maybe it was 2 years ago. But off to a great start this month, and they've got a busy month ahead of them, like you said. SpaceX is going to take a big long look at the data from this mission. It appears to, of course, gone very well, but they're going to take a look at that because of that engine issue that they have been investigating earlier. But this should pave the way for the all-important 21 mission, the first operational Crew Dragon flight to the station coming later this month. They've also got, what else? Sentinel-6 launching from Vandenberg this month. The 108 mission is also scheduled for this month as of now. And then, of course, Starship SN8 doing things at Boca Chica, a very busy month of November for SpaceX right now, and they're off to a great start. And what you're seeing on your screen now, I don't know if we have DOS on comms right now, but this is his favorite view on launch day, an empty launch pad. So a successful early phase of flight, mission not over yet. Like Chris said, a long coast to spacecraft deployment, but off to a great start. And it was a gorgeous and loud liftoff from Cape Canaveral.
Yes, it was indeed. And for those of you on the back end, we might have to leave here in 5-ish minutes or so. So if we do have any questions, outstanding right now. Thomas and I are here for the next few minutes to go ahead and answer them now that Falcon 9 is up and away and in its coast period. But Michael, it appears you might have to read us
Yeah.
the questions because we can't hear
Okay.
Doss.
Let's see. Well, we have a lot of super chats to get through, so I'm gonna take some super chat questions first. Let me see. Harry Young says, time to go launch. Keep up the good work. P.S. Has Chris ranted about the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season yet?
Have I ranted about it? I like that. Well, we did talk about Ada and the S-curve maneuver that it's predicted to do out in the Caribbean. But yes, that's our big thing right now for the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, is watching her where Tropical Storm Ada goes and how much it intensifies now that it is back off of Central America and in the Caribbean and heading towards Florida.
Let's see. Mike says, here's some RP1 for this launch. Thank you guys for airing this. Thank you for the $10 in RP1, Mike. We appreciate that. Taylor says, is the RP1 super cooled like liquid oxygen? Just realized I donated to the Fleet Cam wall. Love your stream, guys. Thank you for the support on the Fleet Cam and the stream, Taylor. We really appreciate your support.
Yes, so the answer to that is yes for SpaceX. The RP1 kerosene is indeed chilled, unlike what Atlas V uses, which is unchilled, basically ambient temperature RP1. If you chill it down, like Thomas was saying earlier, same basic principle with the liquid oxygen. The denser you make it, the more you can pack in and the more efficient you can get from the performance of your vehicle. So yes, for Falcon 9, the RP1 is indeed chilled.
And it's actually another interesting comparison between the two launchers. You see, Falcon 9 does actually to 35.
I can hear you, Doss.
We can hear you, Doss, back. To wrap up that question, yeah, Falcon 9 doesn't fuel until 35 minutes before launch, and that's because they want to keep that propellant, both oxygen and RP1, as cold as possible. Whereas Atlas, they put the RP1 kerosene into Atlas V days ahead of launch. In fact, usually they'll do a wet dress rehearsal, and then they'll just leave the RP1 in the tanks because it lowers the center of mass of the rocket when they're rolling it back and forth. And because it just can stay room temperature and without any oxidizer, it's not any danger to leave it in there. So yeah, that's a big difference between how different companies handle the same fuel, but different kind of launch operations. Yeah.
So when you see Thomas and myself and Steven and Julia and the other members of the team at the Atlas pad setting remotes, there is usually a full load of RP1 kerosene in that vehicle when we're out at the launch pad for that. But again, when it doesn't have oxygen to combine with, it's not a huge safety risk increase to have people out there when the kerosene is loaded.
And there's also fully loaded SRVs there sometimes, which is a different thing. But you can't.
too.
Yeah, you can't really accidentally light an SRV, so it's not really a problem. But there's lots of rocket fuel out there when we're out there. And we should hopefully be back out there probably Saturday ahead of Sunday's Atlas V launch. So there you go.
Let's maybe quickly speed through a couple more super chats while we still have Chris and Thomas. Billy says, hello, Doss, Chris, Michael, and whoever names I missed. Thomas is also on the line. Thank you so much, Billy. Simon West with 10 pounds. Think you may be mistaken regarding GPS channels earlier. Second frequency is not military only. It's just not many civilian devices use it. And they put a link to the gps.gov website. Does anybody know anything about that?
Cool, thanks. I'll click the link.
Yeah. I mean, I think the basic difference, though, is yes, the military channel doesn't specifically have to always be military use, but it is the military reserve side of the system for when they need it. Basically, they could pull it at any time they wanted to if they needed the capacity. But yes, it is technically exactly what was said. There are civilian uses for the military side of it. Just the everyday use that we were talking about with cell phone navigation and car navigation is handled on the civilian side of the network.
Thank you for the super chat, Simon, and thank you for providing a source to back up your data, because that always helps. sometimes people comment
That
something,
too,
we have no
yes.
idea. We have no idea where it comes from, but the GPS.gov website is definitely a reputable source. So thank you for providing that. Dieter says, "Did you tell your ground equipment you loved him today?"
Nice, nice.
Apparently we did, yes.
The square in the air with 5 pounds. Do you know much about the future launches from the UK? So there are a couple of different small satellite companies proposing to launch from the UK. Do we know anything about them?
To some extent, we know that the Sutherland launch site in Scotland is the one that will most likely be the one that's up and running first, although there's always a chance that Virgin Orbit could get a runway assisted liftoff with Cosmic Girl up ahead of that. But right now it would look like if we're talking like solely you roll the rocket out to a dedicated launch pad and lift off, it's going to be the Scottish launch site in the Highlands up there that holds the best chance for that. That is Orbex. Am I remembering that
Yes,
correctly,
Orbex.
Thomas? That is, yes, that is Orbex. We comparatively don't know a lot about their rocket, aside from the name, and it's a 2-stage vehicle. It's a small satellite launcher, like Electron, or in the Electron class of vehicles, I should say. But that's about all we know for the UK's current prospects right now. And maybe one more question, and then we're going to have to go because we're starting to line up to leave.
Okay, the rest are just super chat statements, so we'll handle that after you go. But final question, when would the booster get to port after being recovered?
Ooh, okay, Julia, you can check my math on this. Julia is nowhere to be seen. Okay, it usually takes about 3 days for a booster to get back from a position 530 kilometers or 630 kilometers downrange, where this one is. So what is today? Today is Thursday evening, so Thursday evening, Friday evening, Saturday. So Sunday. Yeah, so about Sunday or Monday. Yeah.
All right, what are the odds that the Falcon 9 comes back to port and sits in front of Pad 41 right when Atlas V lifts off?
I will take that photobomb because at least it's a rocket.
So Chris and Thomas, I think if you need to wrap up, go for it.
Oh,
Yeah, I
well,
think
one more
so.
question because Jim is right here with us, so we got time for one more.
Okay. I've lost track. Are all Starlink satellites in place now, or are there more still waiting to launch?
They are only about halfway through the initial phase of Starlink deployment, and then there are additional phases beyond that need to go up. So no, we are nowhere near the end of Starlink deployment. They have got a lot of progress. Again, at 700 or 8, I think they're above 800 satellites now on orbit, and that's about half of the initial phase. But then there are other satellites that are going to go to slightly different orbits and altitudes and things like that to complement the initial sphere. So they're well on their way, but we're nowhere near the end yet.
Yeah, so to put that into a little bit of context, so they're about halfway through the deployment sequence to offer initial global coverage. And that will include about 1,250 satellites in all. So they're about halfway through that phase, but the initial constellation is at least 12,000 from what they've said for like full operability. So they're nowhere close to the 12,000 mark, but about halfway to initial worldwide offering.
Good deal. Can y'all hear me
And-
now? Y'all should be able to hear me
Yeah,
now.
you're good.
Okay.
We can indeed, and I think with that we're going to start breaking down and wrapping up here. Just yes, based on who's all headed out. Yeah.
Sounds good. So out there in the field, Chris Gebhardt and Thomas Berghardt operating the camera. Also, Julia Bergeron and Stephen Marr were out there for NASA spaceflight on the ITL Causeway this evening. Y'all are clear to go ahead and pack up that camera, and we will flip back over to our other view from Port Canaveral. Luckily, that ship hasn't reappeared here. But y'all, give a round of applause to the folks out there in the field with NASA spaceflight this evening, bringing us those live feeds from the ITL Causeway. Chris, Thomas, Julia, Stephen, thank y'all so much. We'll be looking at some social media posts, if I'm not mistaken. Stephen taking some pictures out there, right?
Yeah, Stephen
and
Julia are editing right now. Just say hi. We're wrapping up our feed. And Julia, yes, we got the entry burn, says Stephen. All right. So So he's going to share that shortly on social media. And Julie, we had a question a bit earlier. It's a late Thursday evening launch, so Sunday, Monday for booster return. Is that about right?
So yeah, they won't actually be able to hook up and work on securing the booster until morning. That's a daylight activity. So we'd be looking for them to probably leave the landing zone mid-morning, and the countdown starts from there, like 48 hours-ish from then.
Gotcha. So there we go. A much better answer than Thomas and I could give. Yes, there we go. But that'll do it for the NASA spaceflight crew out here on the causeway. Thank you all for watching. And Doss and Michael, we're turning it over to you in the studio.
All right, sounds good. Like I said, y'all are clear to pack that up and get going. Back here in the studio, we've got a couple more super chats that came in. Infinite Puffin, thank you so much for the $13.13. Just made it home from work. You can always scroll the screen back or check the VOD afterwards, Infinite Puffin, but we did get that successful launch of GPS 3 so far. Still standing by for spacecraft separation, which is a pretty good while from now, but appreciate the 1313. Sarah Ecton says, well done, Michael. Great checking on the fleet cam. Michael, good job on fleet cam there, by the way.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and get the full archive off of it, but the first half second I thought to myself, I'm in big trouble because that's way overexposed. But I basically limited the amount of range it could adjust exposure and immediately fixed it. So it actually looked pretty good, I thought, for a night launch with a $300 camera.
Yeah, it looked absolutely fantastic. There was a time where the shot we had on Fleet Cam was better than the other one, and I switched over to it, but unfortunately we hadn't piped the audio to the Fleet Cam only stream. So I didn't stay on that scene very long because we couldn't get that cool launch audio that was coming through. So I'm going to resolve that so I can pipe the remote camera live audio into the Fleet Cam video scene, and we won't have that problem anymore.
And you're now looking at a live view of just reading instructions, by the way, if you're wondering
Oh,
what
yeah.
that is. The other
Yeah,
drone
there you
ship.
go. That's the other drone ship that's still back there in Port Canaveral. And that cargo ship looks like it ended up further in the northern basin there. It did not.
Yeah, we can show it. It's right to the left.
Let's see here. Yeah, there it is, over that way. So it'll be unloading out there, it looks like, not bothering our pristine views of SLC 40 this evening. But no, for real, Michael, good job on the track on Fleet Cam. I know we're working with all sorts of cool possibilities with the robotic cameras, but that was a good track this evening. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. It was pretty cool too. The way it was reflecting off of the light was reflecting off of the clouds that had it up. Even when I zoomed out, because there's so much light from the rocket, you could still see it pretty well. Whereas on a daytime launch, when you zoom out, it's just like a tiny stick.
Yeah, it's a tiny spot. There was a really cool like starburst effect. You could see the shutter burst on the Fleet Cam there for a while, and then the light bouncing off the clouds always looks fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and download that for us here. What booster was that, Michael? What?
B1062.1.
Okay, B1062, and that is GPS 3 launch. I gotta make a folder for it on the server, and then I'll pull the video off of the video server that was recording what was going on there. But let me grab these other super chats. Here. We'll ignore this username. Change it as a joke for somebody who haven't changed it back yet. Thanks for the stream. $20. School, thank you very much for the $20 there. We appreciate you. And then last but not least, last super chat in the queue, Tom Brooks for DOS, a very entertaining commentator. Makes things fun. Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. I apologize. I had those microphone issues there. I'm still not exactly what happens. Sure, what happened, we use Discord as our audio, and it seems like Discord completely lost my microphone for a bit. And then I didn't want to confuse people by mic check, 1, 2, 3, mic check. Can anybody hear me? Like, I didn't want to interrupt the stream. So I was trying to be quiet for a while there. But thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. And the financial support, the $5 making it so that we can keep on keeping on with the coverage here. Infinite Puffin just tossed another one in there. 1313 saying great launch. You could see it from your back porch. There you go. Was this the second stage, Infinite Puffin? Were you like way downrange somewhere up the East Coast, or were you like in Orlando or Cocoa Beach or somewhere like that where you could see it? Don't out yourself. Don't dox yourself. That's for sure. But glad you were able to see that a couple different ways on the live stream and in real life.
Somebody said in chat they saw it from North Carolina. I need to go through and check. But if you're in like North Carolina along the coast, if there's a night SpaceX launch that's a Starlink or GPS or something that flies up northeast, you can usually see the re-entry burn and possibly even the landing burn.
Yeah, we need to put a big fleet cam on my roof that can look out towards the coast and see if we can see stages go by. Sounds like a legitimate strategy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You don't
that would
sound
be
very
pretty cool.
convinced.
I mean, I think you might need to get closer to the coast, but a fleet cam in North Carolina, I am good with.
Look, y'all, I have a hammer, these robotic cameras, and I just want them everywhere now. It's too nice to be able to log into a camera and bring up a live feed for the broadcasts. That's taken us through all the queue of super chats there, Michael. There's always questions and stuff like that that come through. Like I see this one, Awesome Dog V2. When will the first stage return to port? A couple days, probably about 3 days. It depends on other traffic and weather, and is there a problem with the tug and that sort of stuff. But be looking for that. We'll probably get that stream going here, definitely on the Fleet Cam stream, because the Fleet Cam stream has been going 24 hours a day for something like 19 or 21 days or something like that now. So you can always pop over to the Fleet Cam stream here on the NASASpaceflight channel, and you'll definitely see the booster there. But we'll probably also do a hosted stream where we basically watch the video while we run our mouths, which I know lots of people love. But we'll probably be doing that when the booster comes back. And then all the processing and stuff is that as well. You can see them lift it up off the drone ship, lay it over horizontal, install the cap, move the legs around, all that sort of stuff. You can always see over on the Fleet Cam. So that rocket has launched. I see some people asking, did I miss it? If you were coming to try and see the launch of GPS-3, you did miss it. That is an empty launch pad on Fleet Cam right now. There is no little fairing sticking up above the transporter erector, and that is because the Falcon 9 on its first flight carrying GPS-3 is now up in space. It's on its way to its target orbit. Still a while before they actually separate that spacecraft. See if I'm just scrolling real quick, looking for other chats where we got tagged. We answered that one. Boat photos, nice. Daryl Mason says, love the Fleet Cam. I'll read that one out. I mean, if you have kind words to say about Fleet Cam, I think I can repeat those. James Vega, you're welcome for the live feed. Beautiful shot of Miko. The detail was stunning. Good job, Michael. There you go. Michael and Thomas was out there operating the camera as well. But I think that's most of the questions where we got tagged there, Michael. Are we clear to start shutting things down?
Yeah, I think so. The next burn is not until an hour and 3 minutes into the mission. So if you want to see that happen, of course, everyone can go over to the SpaceX feed. But I think on our end, we will wind it down since everything that we can capture is now over.
Good deal. All right, folks. So again, a couple little technical hiccups there. We always appreciate your patience. We're not like a massive crew with $1 million budget. We're all doing this, people on their personal cell phone, dialing into Discord and back at home on home internet connections and all that sort of stuff. I don't think any of us have any actual camera operator training of any sort that I'm aware of. But we get out there and we bring you the coverage. A big part of what we do is the live commentary, answering questions, and that sort of stuff. So we do appreciate y'all being patient with us as we work our way through some of the technical hiccups that happen here on the stream. But for now, NASA spaceflight crew going to be shutting down the live commentary coverage of GPS-4. That rocket has launched. The Falcon 9 from SLC-40 is on its way to that target orbit. Back from the studio, Michael Baylor, thank you so much this evening for all the help with everything. Y'all, track on Fleet Cam, give a round of applause for Michael Baylor there real quick. Michael, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I don't know why everyone thinks it's so hard to track it with Fleet Cam. I make it sound harder than it is, but
Don't tell
it's
them.
like a mouse button where you click up and then it goes up. So
But you have to click the right button at the right time, and you're 2,500 miles away from this camera. It's really impressive. It's almost like you're operating a Mars rover. Slightly less latency.
I guess. I don't know.
I guess. Well, geez, DOS, whatever. And then the guy who never stops talking except when his mic physically breaks or a Discord turns him off. I'm John Galloway for NASA Spaceflight. If you watch me over on Twitch, you may know me as DOS. But we appreciate everybody joining us this evening. Be on the lookout for those next streams. Boosters coming back to port, testing out at Boca Chica. Other launches that may occur. We got that update on on NROL 101 with United Launch Alliance rescheduling for Sunday. So we will be here to cover that for you. You know the rules, or you know the way to do it. Click on the channel, like and subscribe, ring the bell, whatever the kids are doing these days. Follow along on Twitter. You can see I'm K Space Academy up there. Michael Baylor is Next Spaceflight. The actual account is at NASASpaceflight. If you ever forget to remember, if you want a reminder that you should be checking in on NASA Spaceflight streams or videos on a daily basis, maybe to check in on some things from Boca Chica, make sure you check out the NASA Spaceflight shop. Get you a t-shirt, get you 7 t-shirts actually, and then wear a different t-shirt every day. And when you look down, you'll be like, oh yeah, NASA Spaceflight. I wonder if they're streaming. The answer would probably be yes, because Fleet Cam's up. But anyways, we appreciate all the support. I'm going to go ahead and be quiet now. Members Discord, Nick Duggar over there saying the members Discord is awesome as well. A ton of cool members conversations happening in Discord 24/7 because we got members all over the world. But I think that I have tagged everything that I'm supposed to tag, and we are clear to go ahead and shut the stream down. So again, SpaceX is going to keep on going. They get paid a lot more than we do for these launches. So actually, we don't get paid anything for the launches. So if you want to keep on going, keeping up with what is up with the SpaceX spacecraft separation, you can hop over to the SpaceX stream, but the NASA spaceflight team is signing off for this evening. Live coverage, GPS 3 from Cape Canaveral. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you nerds later.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
Alright, the chamber pressure looks good.